talking about what configuration management is, configuration management versus asset management. Why is configuration management important? Stages for implementing a configuration management plan. Configuration management, the inputs, the outputs, ensuring a sustainable configuration management practice within your organization, key performance indicators of configuration management system based on ITIL standard, tools for configuration management, and then we'll take a look at some practical examples. Okay, so what is configuration management? Configuration management is a form of IT service management as defined by ITIL that ensures that the configuration of system resources, computer systems, servers, and other assets are known, good, and trusted. So it doesn't end up at just being known. They have to be good and they have to be trusted. So this is where configuration management stamps a clear, difference when compared to asset management in general. We'll be looking at that in subsequent slides. Configuration management versus asset management. While asset management focuses on tracking assets and asset details, for example, you purchase a new laptop, asset management might just be interested in what's the model of the laptop, what's the serial number, and all, right? Whilst configuration management will be concerned with the correct delivery of the service itself. What was the process that was followed in procuring that laptop? Okay, and the relationships, as you could see written on the screen. Asset management focuses on financial attributes, and it aids managers in decision making, money saving, and getting the most out of every asset. That is on one hand for asset management. Financial experts, depend on asset management to determine depreciation, which is a function of how long that asset has been in use and when it reaches end of life. Whereas configuration management supports all other service management processes. Okay, so it doesn't just focus on that asset. For example, I have used buying a laptop, in my analogy. It doesn't just, configuration management will not end, on just evaluating the laptop that has been bought. What are the other dependencies? Are we going to have printers connected to the laptop? How many people will be sharing resources, that are domiciled on the hard drive of that laptop? Those are some of the things that configuration management will be looking at. So I hope I have clearly made the difference known now. Let's move to the next slide. Why is configuration management important? So having explained why we embark on configuration management journey, we now need to look at the benefits, improved experience for your customers and internal staff. Yes, how does configuration management ensure improved experience? Because you have every information pertaining to every configuration item properly recorded. So it makes it easier for your internal and external customers' needs to be met, and they will be satisfied. Strict control of your processes by defining and enforcing formal policies and procedures that govern asset identification, status monitoring, and auditing. Greater agility and faster problem resolution. With proper configuration management, it's easier to resolve problems if there are any problems within the enterprise, because you're able to identify the component that is faulty and fix the fault within shortest possible time. So this is one of the benefits of having configuration management system. Efficient change management, quicker restoration of service. It's related to what I just said earlier. Better release management and clear status accounting. So these are some of the benefits, why we say organizations should use configuration management. Now, there are various stages for implementing a configuration management plan. The first is you need to identify the configurable item. Okay. Then the second is you need to practice a configuration control. After you have identified the configuration item, then you need to put in place the controls, that will govern how that configuration item, is being used. So those controls will include the change management processes, everything that pertains to the use of that configuration item and how it will be used will be captured under this configuration control. Then status accounting is after you have captured it in your configuration management system, you then need to make it possible for the users or the service manager to know the status of that configuration item at every given time, maybe by way of generating reports, and all what have you. Then audit and verification. So it doesn't stop at status and accounting. Okay, the hardware, the configuration items you have in your configuration management system should then be audited for consistency. So you have to ensure that you practice audit and verification to make sure that, or rather to validate or ascertain the integrity of the configuration items you have within your configuration management system. Okay, so let's move to configuration management inputs and outputs. Now we'll look at the components that form input and the components that form output within your configuration management system. So all the changes that are required in the configuration management system will form a form of input. So you want to change a faulty switch within your network. Okay, so it forms an input. Tasks initiated from changes or service requests to create or modify configuration items also are classified as inputs. Then on the output side, the configuration management plan. I mentioned it in my previous slide that you first need to identify the configuration or the configurable items. Before you even start this, you would have prepared your configuration management plan. So it's an input, into your configuration management system. I'm sorry, it's an output of the configuration management system, the configuration management plan. Then the configuration management policies, the policies that address who should access what and when and how it should be accessed. Configuration management data model, defining the configuration items and their attributes. Let's say you have laptops, systems, desktops, printers within your enterprise. You need to define the types properly. Then configuration reports, for example, overview of configuration items, subscriptions, license reports, stock reports, or configuration utilization reports. Then these are all outputs. Configuration audit report is another output. Recall in my previous slide, I said audit and verification is a stage in implementing the configuration management plan. So this audit report is one of the outputs. Incidents reported due to discrepancies or unauthorized changes detected is another output. Creation and modification of configuration items and configuration data is yet another output. So having looked at all of these inputs and outputs, we then need to ask ourselves a question. How do we ensure a sustainable configuration management practice within an organization? One thing I would like to bring to our attention is that for configuration management to be effective in an organization and for it to be sustainable, it's important that it covers processes, people, and technology, right? So processes in the sense that you have properly articulated and documented process for how, the resources within your organization will be utilized. People in the sense that it is clearly defined who will access what and when. And then technology, in the sense that you must you must take time to implement the most suitable technology that works for your peculiar situation within the organization. Because from my own experience, it is not a one cap that fits all. You must understand your organization's requirements and peculiarity and tailor your technology to meet that requirement. Then the second point there is track changes. You must always track the changes. Every change that is made to every configuration item within your organization, you must put a process in place to track changes. That's the only way you can have a sustainable configuration management system within your organization. Early identification and testing is also important. So if something has gone wrong with any configuration item, it is important that problem is identified early, and then testing is also key. You must not leave any endpoint. So a situation whereby you have 100 PCs with 100 workstations within your enterprise, and you have only keyed in 20 into your configuration management system, that is not a good practice to ensure a sustainable configuration management system. So it's always important to make sure that all the endpoints, all the systems, all the equipments you have, within your organization is captured. You must not leave any endpoint. Then performance testing. You must test for performance and be sure that your configuration management system is performing optimally. Avoid fixing issues with codes. The reason why this is key is that the next configuration manager that might take over from you might not be skilled in a particular programming language. Let's say you have fixed an issue in C#, and another person comes in and he is skilled in a Visual Basic, for example. Then it will take longer period to fix that issue than it would have taken if you had just fixed it without using code. So you are encouraged to use low-code applications or avoid using codes in fixing issues. All right, the next slide talks about key performance indicators of configuration management system based on ITIL standard. Based on ITIL standard, there are quite a number of ways we can ensure that or ascertain that our configuration management system is performing as expected. The first one is ratio of used licenses against paid for licenses. This should be close to 100%. So what this means is that if you have subscribed for, let's say, 10 licenses, you must make sure that you actually need 10 licenses to function. A situation whereby you subscribe for 10 licenses whereby only 4 licenses are in use, it means that the remaining 6 licenses are redundant. And this is one of the metrics that a comprehensive configuration management system can help you, optimize. If you have a comprehensive and optimal configuration management system, then you would know when you need to add additional licenses and when you don't need to add additional licenses to keep this metric at the optimal standard. The next one is average cost per user for licenses. This is another important metric. How much is it costing, per user to acquire your licenses? Achieved accuracy in budgets and charges for assets utilized by each customer. This also borders on cost optimization. Percentage reduction in business impact of outages and incidents caused by configuration management. So we expect that with an optimal configuration management system in place, okay, outages should have minimal impacts to your business. Improved audit compliance. So I have talked about, I gave an analogy earlier where I said if you have 100 computers within your enterprise, ensure that all 100 computers are captured within your configuration management system, such that when your internal audit or external auditors come to audit your system, they will give you a very good mark for compliance. They will grant you 0 exception in your audit because of the effectiveness of the configuration management system that you have chosen. Okay, continuation of the key performance indicators, percentage improvement in maintenance scheduling over the life of an asset. So when your configuration management system is good, then you have an increase in the improvements in your maintenance scheduling over the life of each of the assets. Degree of alignment between provided maintenance and business support. Yes. So there is better alignment, between maintenance and business support because of your configuration management system that you have put in place. Improved speed for incident management to identify faulty configuration items and restore service. So this is talking about mean time between failures, also referred to as MTBF, mean time between failures. So if there is a failure, it is easier to identify and fix that failure while allowing very minimal impact to business because of the effectiveness of your configuration management system. Impact of incidents and errors affecting particular configuration item types. So the impacts on errors affecting those types will also be maintained at minimal level because of the effectiveness of the configuration management. This percentage reuse and redistribution of underutilized resources and assets. So we expect that with an effective configuration management system, you are better able to optimize the use of resources within your enterprise because you are able to monitor and manage utilization and ensure that unused resources are reallocated to where they are needed. That is what that point is talking about. So there are quite a number of tools that are available in the market for managing configuration, within your enterprise. Ansible, HashiCorp, Terraform, CFEngine, Microsoft SCCM, ManageEngine, Service Desk Plus, AWS, or Swap. Like I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, you need to, understand your requirements, your peculiarity, your situation, in terms of IT asset management. What do you need to manage? What kinds of assets? That will also determine your choice of a tool. But for the purpose of this presentation, I will be illustrating how ManageEngine Service Desk Plus achieves, configuration management. So this is a practical example using a ManageEngine Service Desk Plus. If you look at the screen carefully, you can see I have pointed an arrow towards workstations. This is just an illustration. So when you go to workstations, you have servers, smartphones, switches, tablets, and all the hardware that you have, and then you can see that ManageEngine Service Desk Plus tells you the total number of servers that you have there, how many are in use, how many are in store, how many are undergoing repair. The same thing with the smartphones, how many are in use, how many in store, how many are in repair. Okay, let me move to the next slide. So when you now point the arrow straight to a particular workstation, maybe you want to know more about that workstation. When you double click on that workstation, in this instance, I'm double clicking on the first workstation on the table, then you are able to view more details about that workstation. You can see the service tag, the model of the workstation, the domain, what is the state, is it in use, and who is the manufacturer, what's the serial number. All of these things are there. So if you want to now get further details, you can go to relationships which is where the CMDB comes in. So when you click on relationships, you are able to see other dependencies on that workstation. Who is the workstation assigned to? Are there other devices that are connected to the workstation, and all what have you. The CMDB is a database, configuration management database, okay, that lists, the configuration item and the relationship it has with, other, resources within the enterprise. So in this instance, you can see the person that this computer has been assigned to and all the assets that are connected to it in one way or the other. Okay, going further, you are also able to, I spoke about being able to generate reports. So this is a screen that illustrates the reporting aspect. So when you click on reports, you can click on a particular, maybe you want to get a report on computers. For the purpose of this training, I'll just focus on desktop and computers. So maybe you want to generate a report on computers by manufacturers. So you click on computers by manufacturers, and then you can see it's giving us a distribution of all the computers you have within your enterprise by manufacturers. So while the red portion of the pie chart represents computers manufactured by Dell, the green portion represents computers manufactured by HP, and then Lenovo, and then Microsoft. So you are able to generate these reports. But before I continue, I would like to explain to us how these details are captured. So for example, for ManageEngine Service Desk Plus, there are two ways you can capture the details of your assets. It's either you capture the details, like have an inventory in an Excel document or a comma separated value, and then you upload this, the CSI document to the service desk, to the configuration management system. Or you have an agent. Different softwares have their different approaches. So some softwares have agents that you must install in the remote computers, and then the configuration management system automatically identifies those computers based on the agents that have been installed and then captures them. I just thought I should mention that. So this is how you generate reports, for computers based on manufacturers. Thank you very much.